Hey everyone, welcome back to Milwaukee Uncut, presented by Central Standard Distillery in partnership with On Milwaukee and Storymark Studios. Have a very special guest here today, Mayor Cavalier Johnson, the first elected black mayor of Milwaukee, who took over for Tom Barrett in December of 2021, then won his election in the spring of 2022. Just wrapped up your first official year since getting elected.
Yep.
Thanks for coming in today. It's great to have you.
It's my pleasure to be here. Happy to do it.
So just going back, you grew up, you were one of 10 siblings, essentially, grew up in the 53206, which is the most incarcerated zip code in the U.S. What was your experience like growing up in the city of Milwaukee?
It was challenging. When I was a kid, and I went to Milwaukee Public Schools from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, we moved a lot when I was a kid. We had a lot of housing instability. When I was in elementary school, I went to 6 different schools, getting plucked out of, schools and going to other ones across the city. So I had experience before I ran for office, citywide experience, just by virtue of the fact that I was in schools from the far northwest side all the way to the south side of the city, and lived in a number of different neighborhoods, primarily on the north side, certainly. But I had a citywide sort of experience before I even thought about running for public office.
And when did you know you wanted to get into politics?
14 years old. 14 years old. 2 things happened that year. It was 2001, and I had joined or was recruited to go into a pre-college program for low-income students in Milwaukee Public Schools to be the first person in your family to go to college. That program was called Sponsor a Scholar. It was a mentorship program, and it was great. The other part of that same program was to get those same kids involved in service and giving back. And so I went to help seniors to rake leaves and shovel snow and do all that sort of stuff. And I fell in love with the service, aspect of that. And then later on that same year, 9/11 happened, and I watched President George W. Bush at the time go to what was left of the World Trade Center as a freshman in high school at Bayview High School. And for whatever reason, something just clicked in my brain that said I could have a career where I got up and served people. Like I fell in love with doing that at the YMCA, and government could be the pathway that I did that because I saw President Bush doing that. And so that happened at 14 and just never looked back. 14 years old.
And you weren't a success right away when you got into the political realm. I know you had a couple failed campaigns. Can you touch on that and what your initial start was trying to break in?
Oh yeah, Lord no, I was not successful at all. So when I went to college, I went to UW-Madison and studied political science. I knew what I wanted to do, so I didn't need to switch majors a number of times. I was focused in on what I had desired there. And when I graduated with my degree in political science, I had opportunities before going into the workforce where I worked in workforce development with the agency that's now called Employ Milwaukee. I worked there as an intern when it was the Milwaukee Area Workforce Investment Board and the Private Industry Council of Milwaukee County. Did other service projects in New York and Europe and in South America, other places. My first spring break in college was in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, and folks had lost everything. And so then when I graduated and I took all the experiences that I had from those things, I said, okay, I'm ready to run. I was not ready to run. There were things that I still did not know. So I thought to myself, this is the only time that I'm going to be able to run for office, because there was somebody who was in office for some time and they left the county board. So I just decided to throw my name in the hat and I ran. There were 5 people in the race and I got crushed. I was in 5th place. Like I got the fewest amount of votes. And then the next year, there was another opportunity. Somebody else had left office. That should have been my signal that there will be opportunities, but I was still young. It wasn't yet. So I thought, okay, this must be, the godsend, like a second kick of the cat. This time there were 7 people in the race. I wasn't in 7th place. I was in 6th place, and I got fewer votes than I did the first time that I ran. So it was a little demoralizing. to say the least. But I stayed at it, and I learned from a lot of folks. I expanded my network, and I just continued to dig in and work at it. And I didn't give up. I didn't give up, and that's one of the life lessons that my mentors and family taught me over time, which is just, you face difficulty, you face challenges, but those things can be overcome. There is another day. Do not give up. And I just didn't give up.
I know that probably can't be easy at that age. You probably have an ego at that age and you think you're going to go out and just kill it. And then you get last place and then you get fewer votes than you did before the next one. You said you kept going. Obviously you did. You're the mayor of the city right now. Was there anything in particular that kept you going and that made you not so discouraged from those early failures?
Was there anything in particular that kept me going? I think just my desire to serve in this way. I don't know why it was that, those two things, my experience in the YMCA and the service projects, and, of course, 9/11 affected every person, every American in, some way or another. Some folks decided to become police officers. Some went to the armed forces. I decided to devote my life to service, in doing this. I think it was just my own desire to continue serving my community in some form or fashion that didn't have me to give up. So after failing in my initial 2 runs for office, I still was involved in public sector service, giving back. I continued my work with the nonprofit sector, with workforce development. I helped young people get their first summer jobs through our Earn and Learn Summer Youth Jobs program. I helped seniors to retool their resumes and get back into the workforce for the last time. And then I had the opportunity, the former mayor, Tom Barrett, saw all the work that I was doing in the community and recruited me to come into his office. So I made it to the mayor's office as a staffer about 10 years ago, actually. In 2013, I went there. And then when I was there, a third sort of opportunity came up. I'm a young man. I moved around, and the place that I lived at the time, the alderman in the second aldermanic district was running for mayor and not running for reelection. And we've seen this in the past where some alders have run for both. They run for mayor, and as a sort of fail-safe, they run for their aldermanic district again. This time, the alderman was not running for reelection, and so I thought to myself, it's a wide open seat. It's a third shot. I have better connections. I feel like I've made more of an impact. I learned lessons from the past. I think I can give another shot at this. I will tell you though, I was scared. I was scared. I made my way into the mayor's office, and I remember the day in July of 2015 when I left the mayor's office. After working so hard to get to government, to get to the mayor's office, I packed my box up. And if you were ever in City Hall on the second floor, I was at the top of the stairs, and I had my box, and I looked back, to my left at the sign over the door that says mayor's office. I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever be back here. I don't know if I will be, but I have to go, and I have to try to get to the other side of the hall. And so I walked down the stairs, and just like in my first race, there were 5 people in the race. And I'm like, oh Lord, here we go again. But again, I relied on the lessons that I had learned. And I mean, that time I didn't come out in 5th place. That time I came out in the primary election. I came out in 1st place with over, I believe, I forget what the total was then, but it was a significant amount. I think it was like 40% of the vote or something like that. And ultimately won in the general election too, and became at that time the youngest African American to ever win a seat on Milwaukee's Common Council.
What was that feeling like? Were you surprised? Were you relieved? Were you proud? A combination of everything?
A combination of everything. I remember the election night, April 5th, 2016, and had folks at my election party in the district, and me being so nervous and not wanting to go there until I knew for certain that I had won the election, because I had lost 2, and I was going to go anyway, but I wanted to know. And my opponent at the time had served in the alderman's office. Now, the previous alderman had been there for 13 years, Joe Davis. He had been there for 13 years in that seat, and his aide was my general election opponent. And he had been in the office with Davis for 11 of those 13 years. So he knew everybody. He knew the district. He knew all the neighborhoods. He knew all the block watch. Like, he had so much institutional knowledge about the district that I thought that it was, it was going to be really difficult to defeat him in the general election. But again, we worked really hard. I learned the lessons of the past, and we ultimately were successful that night. But all those emotions you talk about, all of those were racing through my mind and my heart.
Yeah, this got to be nerve-wracking. And so Barrett stepped down in late 2021. How did that come about for you to take over for him?
So if you fast forward the tape from that first election in 2016, so then in 2020, I run for re-election, and I'm re-elected to the city council. That year, I also run for city council president, right? And so that's an election just amongst the alders. And so the alders, or at least a majority of us, elected me to serve as council president. And so when you get elected council president, you are, I guess essentially like vice president in a way. And so if the president of the United States, if President Biden were to step down, today, then Vice President Harris would assume the presidency. Same thing that we have here. So Mayor Barrett at the time was being nominated by President Joe Biden to be United States ambassador to Luxembourg. And ultimately, when the Senate confirmed his nomination and the mayor resigned as council president, I then had the opportunity to step up and serve as acting mayor from the point that Tom left up until the point of my own election the following April. So that was December 22nd, 2021, and then elected in April of just last year.
Was that a whirlwind 5 months for you?
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was.
Did you see that coming at all, or?
I didn't. Of course, as council president, that you're in a position to become mayor if something like that were to ever happen. We've got a tradition of very long-serving mayors in Milwaukee, and certainly Tom Barrett served for a very long time, nearly 20 years as mayor. Did I have any inclination that it would happen? My thought was like I watched Tom serve in the position of mayor from 2008 up until 2016, 2017. And I say those years because those are the years where Barack Obama was president. And Tom Barrett was the first big city mayor in America that actually stepped out and endorsed Barack Obama, even when Hillary Clinton was still in the race. Tom was there for Barack. And for two presidential terms, Tom Barrett was still here. He was still mayor. President Obama hadn't tapped him. So my thought was like, if he stayed here for 2 Obama terms, it's probably unlikely that he's going to go anywhere now. So I'm just focused on doing my job as council president and serving as 2nd District Alderman. So do I know there's a possibility of something like that happening? Yeah, sure, in the back of your mind, but I wasn't really banking on it. I didn't know it was going to happen, but then it did.
Yeah, and you're the first elected black mayor of the city of Milwaukee, obviously a very segregated city. What do you think the importance of that is?
I think it's very important. Milwaukee is sort of like the Ellis Island of the state of Wisconsin, right? 1 in 10 Wisconsinites live here. The vast majority of people of color in the state of Wisconsin live here in Milwaukee. Certainly the vast majority of African Americans. We've got a growing and great Latino population here in the city. We've got one of the largest enclaves of Hmong people in the country here. There are Native Americans who live and call Milwaukee home as well too. So it means a lot, I think, to have a person of color who represents the diversity of the city. And when we're a city that is 65%, maybe a little bit more, people of color, right? And so to have a mayor who reflects that, I think is critically important. And I remember my election night last April, and one of the first people that I had the opportunity to speak with was a little black boy who now can see his own reflection in the mayor's office. And I spent a lot of time in schools across Milwaukee, and one of the first things that I tell young people in schools is that, look, I can't be here forever. No, we're not going to be mayor forever. I'm not trying to break, Henry Meyer or Carl Zeidler's record of being, mayor for 28 years or anything like that. So I need them to study hard, care about their community, because at some point in the future, one day, there will be a new mayor, just like there was after Tom Barrett left, just like there was after John Norquist left, just like there was after Henry Meyer left, so on and so forth. And I need them to be ready to step into the opportunity to serve. And it is really a unique opportunity to serve every person in our city.
It's got to be inspiring from them, a young black man becoming mayor from their zip code, just seeing that.
Yeah. I think that it is. When I get the chance to go back there and go visit them in their schools or go walk, on the streets in those neighborhoods, they are impressed, and like they want to see me. They want to shake my hands. They want to take pictures with me because, again, they can see their own reflection. I think, for them now, they think that, hey, this is possible too. It's one of the pieces of advice that I got when I was a kid. There are several pieces that helped me even today as it relates to this conversation. One of the pieces that I got when I was a kid was from my dad. And my dad told me when I was a kid that you should get off the block. And when I was young, I thought he was talking about my actual, four corners of my city block that I lived on. And I said, well, Dad, I could just cross the street, and then I'm like not on not on the block. But he was talking about expanding your horizons, and going different places and doing different things and being exposed to different things. And now I think for these kids, even by me coming to them, or them seeing me elsewhere, if that were to be the case, that is expanding their horizons. They can see that, what happens on the four corners of their block, especially if they're accustomed to seeing bad things happening. They know that there is some other chance, there is some other opportunity if they work hard and stay focused, that they can do anything. They can become mayor. And I tell them too, there's nothing special about me. There isn't. I come from the same neighborhoods, went to the same schools, have the same challenges, know what it's like to be hungry, know what it's like to have Christmas with no gifts, know what it's like to be one of many siblings, know what it's like to see gun violence or domestic violence. I've got those same, things in my past as well. And if I'm here, then they certainly can be here too.
Absolutely. And you said you're committed to creating a safer, more equitable city. A lot of people are concerned about the crime in Milwaukee. We've had a number of shootings recently. We've had the Kia boys over the last few years come on the scene. Can you speak to some of the initiatives that you're working on and how they're going?
Sure. And I think it's important for folks to know this. We don't get enough of this from traditional media, and I wish that that was not the case. But the fact of the matter is that in the one solid year that I've been mayor, in 2022, and I'm not trying to jinx anything, I think we've been very, very focused, working with all of our partners in police, other areas of law enforcement, violence prevention, with the nonprofit sector, certainly with the private sector, to grow jobs and opportunity. Crime has actually dropped in Milwaukee. In 2022, crime in Milwaukee was down about 15%. And violent crime was down some 7%. And here in 2023, those trends continue. And those are good things. And I think that there are a number of factors as to why that's the case. One, we're working at growing family supporting jobs in Milwaukee. Years ago, if you rewind the tape back 50 years, we used to have the highest quality of life for African Americans in the United States, right here in Milwaukee. Right? Why? Is because folks had access to good paying, family supporting jobs to help them to take care of themselves, take care of their families, buy a home. So they're stabilizing forces in those neighborhoods. And if you have that stability in somebody's home and in somebody's family and in the neighborhoods, then that's how you get to a safer city overall, because the neighborhoods become familial when you get to a critical mass of that. So we got a real focus on working with the private sector to grow jobs. We've been working with the police department to do a number of things. We launched a traffic safety unit that goes after folks who are disregarding traffic law. We've implemented new policies to allow the police to go after folks who are driving recklessly, to actually tow those vehicles away. So we're doing that. We're working with our Department of Public Works to install improvements to the roadway, shrinking down some of the lanes, installing protected bike lane facilities throughout the city, which makes traversing the city safer for those folks, but then also puts an additional barrier in the way for folks who attempt to drive recklessly. We've got pinned on curb extensions that are out there as well. We're working with our partners in violence prevention. We just celebrated a Peace Week just last week, where we had dozens and dozens of groups coming out to celebrate all the events that we're doing. So we're doing a lot of things to improve safety in Milwaukee, from the private sector growing jobs point of view, from the position of law enforcement, from the position of violence prevention, from the nonprofit sector. I mean, even our initiative to invest millions of dollars from the American Rescue Plan Act that we were given by President Joe Biden's administration into city-owned, tax-foreclosed homes, where we fix those properties up. We sell them to owner-occupants who are going to be there, be those stabilizing forces in the neighborhoods I was just talking about. And that helps to make neighborhoods stronger and more stable as well. So multi-pronged approach. And I think from what we've seen, it is working, because crime has dropped and those trends continue even into this year.
Yeah, I was listening to a different podcast you were on. You talked about, I believe, Camp Rise as well, where you took inner city kids and gave them jobs, and which prevented them from being recruited into the Kia Boys for the most part, and gave them experience into the workforce as well, and put a couple hundred kids through that last summer.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. When I leave this office at some point in the future, we got long-serving mayors in Milwaukee. But at some point when that does happen, I'll be able to look back at Camp Rise, and I think that'll be the thing that I'm most proud about, because we use the experience that I had growing up in those YMCA programs I talked about, and got those kids who otherwise would have been recruited into going to the Kia Boys and stuff like that, and put them on a better path forward, giving them the caring adult mentors, giving them a work experience, showing them an honest day's wage for an honest day's work. Milwaukee, I believe, is the only major city in the United States right now that is doing workforce development programming with kids as young as 10. I mean, this is 4 years before they're even able to get a work permit. And we're doing that, and we're making a difference in the lives of those kids. Last year was 200, young boys of color. This year it's 200 young boys of color. There was a criticism we got last year that there were no opportunities for girls. Now we've added opportunity for 50 girls to join into Camp Rise as well. So phenomenal program. From the initial year, parents who were surveyed, I remember a stat. They said like 91% of the parents who had young people involved said they saw growth in their young men participating in this program. And so very, very proud of that. And our partners at Employ Milwaukee, Shaitania Brown in particular, who's the president and CEO there, that are administering the program.
Hey everyone, it's your host Richie Burke, and I just wanted to take a minute to thank you for tuning into Milwaukee Uncut, and to thank our sponsor, Central Standard Distillery. They've got an amazing craft house right here in downtown Milwaukee, and they've got a lot of drink options, from their dockside whiskey to their ready pour mixers, and my personal favorite, the Door County Cherry Vodka. And my favorite drink is something I like to call the PAL. Perfect alcohol level. Great for those situations where you need a quick boost of confidence, but also want to be hydrated and light on your feet. What I do is put a couple shots of the Door County Cherry Vodka into a water bottle, as well as an LMNT electrolyte packet. Keeps me fresh, keeps me hydrated, and keeps me feeling good. Perfect on the golf course and for a number of other life situations. Thank you to Central Standard. Let's get back to the show. Okay, so Milwaukee got the bid for the RNC in 2024. You're a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
You've said you're very much in favor of the RNC coming here. Why is this important to the city, and what would you say to other Democrats in the city, which is a good chunk of the city's population, who are maybe not looking forward to the RNC crowd coming in?
Yeah. To me, and yes, I am a Democrat and proud to be so. But to me, the RNC is not about politics. It's not about, whether you got a D behind your name or an R behind your name. It's about business. It's purely about business. Look, this convention is going to happen, right? And it was going to happen in some city somewhere in the United States of America. And whatever community they went to, the eyes of the country, the eyes of the world were going to be fixated on that city. And for, a couple of days or so, when millions of people tuned into the convention on their television screens, they would see the skyline of the city. They'd see, neighborhoods of the city. They'd constantly get, word fed to them about, this city, this opportunity to speak up, and talk about how great a city is. I didn't want that to be Nashville. I didn't want that to be Cleveland again. I want Milwaukee to join that conversation. And the fact that up to $200 million plus potential economic impact would happen from that. I don't want $200 million spent in Chicago or in Poughkeepsie or in Kansas City. I want $200 million spent in Milwaukee. I want those dollars to go into our economy. I want those dollars to go to support our workers on the ground in this city. I want those dollars to go to support businesses that have been battered by the pandemic in our hospitality, retail, tourism sector here in Milwaukee. I don't want that to happen in some other place. And I want this convention to continue opening people's imaginations about what it is that we can offer here in Milwaukee. I want Milwaukee to continue to be a part of the conversation, right? So I don't think that it stops at the RNC. I think the RNC is a great stepping stone for other large-scale sports, entertainment, political events to choose Milwaukee and see the RNC and the success that we'll have with this convention as an opportunity to say, hey, I never thought about Milwaukee in that sense. Now I'm thinking about going there. So for the NBA All-Star Game, now they'll think about Milwaukee. The MLB All-Star Game, they'll think about Milwaukee. The CrossFit Games that happen in Madison, practically every summer now, they can think about Milwaukee too. The USA Triathlon that routinely has happened there, I want them to stay here. I want another crack at the Democratic National Convention, as well. And I'm a big WWE fan, and so Nashville hosted SummerSlam last year. Like, I want SummerSlam here. I want people coming from all around the world, all around the country.
This was
coming
the real
here.
reason right there.
Yes. No, there's so much opportunity beyond just this one event. And I want the eyes of the world on Milwaukee, and I want those tourism dollars spent here. And the other thing too is, like, Wisconsin is incredibly important for both Democrats and Republicans who are running for president. If Milwaukee were not in this state, there is no RNC in Wisconsin. There is no DNC in Wisconsin. It's only because Milwaukee is in this state that we are in the position for these large-scale events to come here. And a quarter of all tourists who come to the state of Wisconsin, they come here. I want more people to come here to feed our economy, to support our workers, and to support Milwaukee.
That makes sense to me. A lot of eyes on the city, great economic impact, and we can show the world that we can handle large-scale events.
Correct.
Segueing nicely, your goal is to increase the population of the city as well. You set a goal of 1 million people. I believe the population stands slightly less than 600,000 right now. And we're the 30th largest city. In the 60s, we were the 11th largest city. obviously I think hosting big conventions is great exposure. What other things need to happen in order to grow the city very extensively?
Well, a number of things. And you're right about the trajectory that we've been on. Our population has not grown, and I want to reverse those negative population trends. Like I don't think it's good enough for us to just settle of being a city of roughly 600,000, or biting around the edges to maintain that. Like we should be ambitious and look to grow that. So yes, hosting these large scale events, getting more eyes and attention on Milwaukee, getting more visitors to come here, that I think will generate people deciding to move here as well. So that's certainly a piece of it. It's our efforts, as I talked about previously, to stabilize neighborhoods with using the American Rescue Plan Act dollars to get owner occupants into housing out in the neighborhoods. It's working with our partners in the nonprofit sector who are doing the same thing, busting up these outside absentee landlords' ability to buy properties, and then themselves doing the same thing to get long-term stabilized homeowners into neighborhoods as well. All the efforts that we're making around improving the roadways in the city that I just talked about earlier, reducing reckless driving, making it safer for other users of the roadway. Those are attractive factors to get people with families especially to look at moving to Milwaukee. Building out a protected bike lane network, actually protected, not just paint on the ground, but a protected network citywide. I think that's attractive to people who have disposable incomes and could move anywhere in the country to choose to come to Milwaukee. Being open to economic development and growth here in the city. So right now in Milwaukee, like we've got this renaissance that's been happening over the course of the past couple of years. And I served as council president, so I can take some of the credit for that too here. Milwaukee Tool, that was growing, 1,000 jobs. It was going to happen somewhere. I said that it needed to happen in the city of Milwaukee, not just in the region. It needed to happen in the city. And right now they're putting the finishing touches on their office downtown. And I think that is awesome. I tasked my administration, the Department of City Development, to work with Fiserv to make sure that their global headquarters didn't leave from Brookfield and go to Atlanta or go out east, New York, New Jersey, where their CEO sits, or go to Omaha, that we retained it in Wisconsin, that we retained it in Milwaukee. And so their global headquarters is going to be downtown Milwaukee. They're going to bring hundreds of jobs, and they're going to grow jobs there as well. We are finishing off the expansion of the Baird Center, formerly the Wisconsin Center. And that's going to allow us to be able to attract more large scale events and multiple events at the same time to the city of Milwaukee. And right now, presently in Milwaukee, there are 3 skyscrapers that are going up that are 30 stories or more. When you think about the Hines development at the north end of the 3rd Ward, the Edison Mass Timber Tower on the banks of the Milwaukee River, the Couture, 44 stories down at the lakefront. These things are attractive, and it's not just those. I mean, it's the other residential buildings that are coming up as well, like Renaissance Place over on the east side. Others that are happening across the town, 1818 on Water Street, that have an affordable housing component as well. Our investments in transportation, because not everybody wants to own a car. I wish I didn't have to own a car, half the time, but more people want that. And if you're attracting young professional talent, then they need to have spaces where they can get around and not be dependent on an automobile. So certainly there's the streetcar that we have here, working with Milwaukee County on the bus rapid transit program that's connecting the 2 largest job centers in Milwaukee, downtown Milwaukee, and our regional medical center in the west suburbs along Wisconsin Avenue. Like all those things are attractive to growing the population and bringing people here. And that's not even touching on the efforts that the MMAC, the Milwaukee Metropolitan Association of Commerce, have with their Region of Choice initiative, working to make sure that more people, and more people of color, get opportunities to serve in management and leadership positions in businesses across Milwaukee. So a lot of efforts.
Yes, great stuff. All right, we're going to move over to the standard five relatively quick questions,
Okay.
brought to you by Central Standard. Number 1, if you could spend a day with one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Just one person, not one alive, one dead, just one
You
person.
can give me two if you'd like.
Martin Luther King, and as my dead person, and alive, George W. Bush.
I like it.
Yeah.
Be cool. Both at the same time too. That'd be a good conversation. Be
that'd be-
interesting. What is your favorite thing to do in Milwaukee that may surprise some people
My favorite thing to do in Milwaukee that may surprise people.
or may not surprise people?
It may not surprise people. I mean, I love going to parks in Milwaukee. I mean, I really, really do.
Good activity. I don't want to get you in trouble, but do you have a single favorite restaurant in the city?
No, I love them all.
It's a politician right there. That is a politician. All right, we'll move on. The First Take segment, you got some national attention from Stephen A., very popular show. I like that show. How did that all come about, and how did you actually get the gift basket to him and on TV?
How did it come about? It came about because Stephen A. was talking crap about Milwaukee, man. He was talking about it's cold during winter. He lives in New York. It's cold in it's cold in New York in winter as well. Look. At the end of the day, I think Stephen A. and I are going to be really good friends. It came about because he made those comments, and then we worked with the Bucks in order to get the gift basket over to him. I think it went over pretty well.
Yeah, that was great. There was some breaking news, I believe, last week. You had your Mayor's Design Awards. Saw Joe Stanton from Three Leaf Partners snagged one of those. Can you touch on the importance of Joe Stanton and Pat Connaughton to the city of Milwaukee?
Yeah, Joe and Pat are doing just amazing work with their developments. I mean, just in Milwaukee, all across the region, and it's not even just the developments, the properties, the real estate that they're developing. It's also the charitable giving that they're doing in Milwaukee, especially through Pat Connaughton's foundation as well. I had the opportunity to go visit Neighborhood House, maybe about a year ago, and saw the court that the foundation put down. They're just doing great work in Milwaukee, affecting our physical landscape, and I'm really appreciative to what they're doing.
I agree. As the mayor, would you recommend that Joe and Pat come back on the podcast?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you. Final question. When you look back at your tenure as the mayor of Milwaukee, what would you consider success?
Well, I guess I would end where I began. When I began my quest to become mayor, I talked about having a city that was stronger, that was safer, and that was more prosperous for all Milwaukeeans. And I think we're on the way to doing that. I've got a long time to go before I leave this office. But that's going to be my sort of North Star here. Is the city in a stronger position? Is the city safer than what it was when I became mayor? And are we going to be in a position where more people in Milwaukee, regardless of their race, regardless of their background, regardless of their zip code, in a position to have more access to prosperity? Those are things I'll look at.
Very well said. Mayor Johnson, thanks for coming on Milwaukee Uncut.
Happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Milwaukee Uncut. If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a huge favor and subscribe to the show and write a review. That helps us get more ears on these episodes and these great Milwaukee